This is one of my local parks, guys, that I come out to quite often. I really enjoy the open space, green spaces, and how things are kept so well. Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Now I know it's been a little while since I had a last video come out. We've been pretty busy with work. We went back to England just last week and we got back to Toronto a few days ago. And I actually realised it's been 1.5 years in Canada, so I wanted to come back and make a video and just give you guys an update, how things have been, what the future might hold, where we are with stuff, and just have a catch up, just one for the books. So I hope you've all been doing well. I've been looking forward to the summertime in Toronto. Now last year when we were here, the summertime was an absolute treat. This year it's been kind of slow. It's still a little breezy, you can still feel like a little chill in the air, but last year was insane. It was just 30 degrees straight away. It was like humidity at the top. It was really hot. It was a great surprise really being in Canada, because you usually assume that Canada is just pretty cold and that's about it, but as you can see today, guys, it's like pushing 20 degrees, which is not too bad. And it gave me an opportunity to come out, just talk to you guys about how things have been. So we've went back to England for the second time in 1.5 years. And it's always good to catch up with family and all that sort of stuff, but coming back here, it feels really strange because it kind of feels we're more at home here now. There's, I think, a better future here really in Canada than there is in England. The jobs and the availability and how things seem and feel out here seems a lot more stable than it did when I was back in England. Now going back to England, every time I've been, it feels more and more run down. I know it's full and packed full of people and there's traffic and all this stuff, but the general sense amongst my family and friends wasn't the best one. I know there's been like strikes for nurses, for firefighters, for teachers. The rail network's always having issues there. Even when I caught the train from Euston, it was just absolutely packed. The train seemed run down, and it was that classic thing where you pay for a train ticket and you're standing all the way on your journey. That sort of stuff never seems to happen here in Canada. Things are slightly newer, things feel slightly fresher. There's always space. That's one thing we really love here in Canada, is just the amount of space. Now I'm recording here, we're here in Midtown. If I spin the camera around, there's like a couple of high-rises in the back, a couple of high-rises to the left of me, but there's so much green space. There's just a lot of space here, and you really appreciate that. Going back to England, it's just everything's really packed in. So we really appreciate that. Number one thing for us here is definitely space. Now we're here in Toronto. I can only imagine living out of the GTA or anywhere else in Canada for that matter, that it would get a lot more spacious, a lot better. But yeah, it just, there seems to be a lot of trouble in England, and it's a shame really. It's a great country, we do miss a lot of things about England, but coming back to Canada the second time around, it's always a good test when you go away and come back, if the place is really for you or not. And it just feels like things are a little settled here, are a little nicer and newer, and there's opportunity in the air, and I don't feel like there's a lack of job opportunities here. You just have to be willing to adapt. The first few jobs that I had weren't ideal, but fortunately now I'm into a better job, and things progress, and slowly you have to build up again when you move to a new country, right? So those are the challenging parts. So definitely the first year was a tough one. I think anyone that moves to a country, doesn't matter where you go, the first 6 to 12 months is always going to be a test and a challenge. But once I think you can overcome that, things do start setting into place a little better. So what does the future look like for us here? I mean, it's gone past 1.5 years now, and we're in the pool for the permanent residency. But the problem here is that it's so competitive. and I do feel like Canada are a bit slow in terms of their pace and how they're processing all of these applicants. There's like always something like 200,000 people just in the permanent residency pool waiting. And it's unfortunate because, you know, sometimes people are running out of time now. That's something that we're up against as well. We're up against the clock on the current visas, and then, you know, trying to get the paperwork sorted for the next step, and then, you know, maybe having to move on to a bridging visa, or you know, we're preparing for everything, even if it's, you know, having to move into a basement space for a couple of months just as paperwork progresses, because I think it'd be super unrealistic trying to live in where we are right now, given that we might have to go onto a visitor status visa, which means we can't really work. So we're just trying to navigate the next sort of 3 to 4 months, get some paperwork sorted, get the PR sorted. You know, we're in the pools, our points aren't the best. I'm now having to talk to my employer to see if there's anything that they can do to assist me with the application, and ultimately, you know, we get to continue our journey here in Canada. Have I thought about going to other parts of Canada? Absolutely. You know, I know that there's easier PR, permanent resident routes if you go to another province. They actually they push people out of Vancouver and Toronto to fill up the rest of Canada, if that makes sense, because everyone comes here, and you know, there's a whole landmass of Canada that needs just waiting to be filled. To be honest, it's a super young country in my eyes, and I feel like there's a load of development here that's yet to happen or yet to be done. And on that basis, you know, that's the reason really why you're encouraged to stay in a country like that, because there's development yet to happen. So there's new things yet to come. Whereas I felt like coming from England, like it's pretty packed out. You know, it's pretty tired looking. You know, some parts of England, and you don't have that sense of growth when you're there. You know, places like London are great. You'll get a job and you'll start earning, and you climb your way up, and you do the same thing, you know, what we've done moving to Canada. But it just feels like, you know, being here, it's almost everywhere. That opportunity is not just in Toronto. Like if you go to Nova Scotia, if you go out to Calgary, and go out to, you know, Vancouver, all these other areas, they're just still places that are fairly young, and you know, some places are in their infancy of infrastructure, and stuff will get developed, and it will build, and it will grow, and I think that's really exciting. But ultimately, I feel like I would prefer to probably stay in Ontario, and that's purely because I think of the location, the close proximity to home, and I think also, you know, we can hop on a plane and we can be home in 6 to 7 hours. And if you stick around in places like Ontario, it actually works out almost the same, really. All you're doing is the upheaval of getting all your stuff and moving to another location and starting over again. And the other thing I think for me really is, I think Ontario's weather is the best that you're going to get, especially if you're in Toronto or Southern Ontario, really, that you're going to get in the whole of Canada. Now, I know Vancouver's out there and it doesn't really get cold, but it rains a lot, and that sucks because I'm from England and I can tell you all about the rain. The vacation we just had was like 6 out of 10 days were pure rain, which was really, really annoying. We had like 2 or 3 good sunshine days. And so the rest of Canada is pretty cold. You know, my friends out in Calgary, the minus 30s, the minus 40s, you know, the 6 months of winter, you know, and that's, you know, you can go across, you know, Edmonton's the same, you can Saskatchewan's the same, you know, if you go to Montreal, the winters are colder, even Ottawa's colder than Toronto, right? So if you're trying to escape the weather, don't move to Canada. If you're trying to find the best of it, I really feel like it's in Ontario, because in Ontario, especially in Toronto, it's mostly just January and February that it's going to be cold. The rest of it feels similar to England in terms of the winter, and then, to be honest, the summers here are just a knockout. You know, it's I love them. This is a solid 4 months of guaranteed summertime, which is great, because in England sometimes it's 4 weeks, or sometimes it's 2 months. You never know. So yeah, those are some of the reasons why I'd stick around. Now, the problem in Ontario is that house prices are a joke. I talk to a lot of people. Some people have been waiting 5 years for the market to crash. Some people tell me that it's not going to crash at all because of all the migration and everything that's happening. Canada's just in this super bubble that's going to continue to grow and grow. So it's hard to tell, but I try not to bother myself with like issues that aren't really facing me directly right now. Right now we're just focused on the paperwork and we're focused on the PR stuff, and once we get past that hurdle, I think we can think about all these other things that the future is going to hold, but there's really no point getting into the detail of it right now because it doesn't really affect us. Canada's expensive, guys. It's an expensive place to be. It's probably comparable to places like London. I'm not from London, I come from Birmingham, so it was pretty tough, to be honest, coming out here. But you do also pay for the quality of life. The parks here, I'm sitting behind one just on the edge of it, and it's absolutely clean. There's no litter. People are great. It's just you get what you pay for, and if this is Toronto and this is the city, I could only imagine how it is when you slightly move out. It'll probably get better, to be honest, in terms of space and cleanliness and all that sort of stuff, and that stuff really does make a difference because that's your everyday. I come here for a walk quite often, or for a jogger even, and it's important because that's your surrounding and that's your environment, and that has a big effect on your mental well-being. Especially for me anyway. Everyone has their own things. I'm an outdoor guy. Like, unfortunately we don't have a balcony on our apartment, so I come out here quite often. I treat this as my outside space. It's like a 4 or 5 minute walk from our apartment, so realistically this is when the plane goes over. So the plane's now gone over, and like I was saying, guys, this is, realistically, this is my outside space, especially in the summertime. I want to be out as much as I can, getting that vitamin D in. So yeah, guys, it's been interesting. Things like groceries and all this inflation stuff has happened here too, guys. Canada's not exempt from it. I've got pictures where I used to spend $200 on groceries and I used to have 4 bags full, and now pretty much you get about 2 bags. So that has happened everywhere. I think it's all about how you adapt and adjust your lifestyle to sustain yourself. I don't think, in the first year you're just constantly in need of things. I think coming to Canada as a new immigrant, as anywhere, you feel like people are trying to rip you off, but you grow through that phase, and once you get your microwave and your sulfur and all this stuff that you need as essentials, coming on to lifestyle, I think being in Canada, a lot's changed for me personally. I think who I am as a person as well. I go back to England and I always imagine like what I'd be like if I was still living there, and I imagine myself as who I've become now, and I personally feel like a lot's changed. I think health has changed a lot. We eat a lot less fast food since we've been here. I think England, they have a big culture of fast food, and there's nothing really wrong with it. It's not the healthiest choice, but here there's a lot less fast food, and we've kind of navigated our lifestyle a little bit healthier that way. It's more interesting to be out in open green spaces like where I am, and I think lifestyle really has changed for the better. I feel like England, when you're there, there's like a pub on every corner, there's a takeout on every corner, there's a chip shop on every corner, and there's more and more now. Wherever you go, you'll find like a whole array of like burger joints, pizza joints. Whereas that kind of culture doesn't really exist here too much. You can find it, but it actually, I feel like it's beneficial because you stay away from going into those old habits, and you develop newer ones, slightly more healthier ones, I think. Canada's a great place still. I think it has its fair share of troubles. I think there's debt traps everywhere in Canada. The credit card culture is horrible here. The borrowing and lending culture is horrible here. Consumer rights aren't that great, to be honest. It's like I said, it's a slightly pricier place to be, but I'm sure once we get out of the GTA, things will probably ease off and feel a bit better. But overall, I think we found a small happy place where we are, happy space, and I think that's really important for us. And we're going to try and build and develop on that, and then see where we get to on the next few steps with all of this visa stuff. And I'll keep you guys posted about it. It's a process that almost every immigrant goes through, and we're in the middle of it right now. So right now it's long weekend as well, so it's just been giving me a great opportunity to come out and catch up with you guys. The work culture here, guys, it's like it's so hard to figure out. I feel like people work a lot here. I feel like in England, when it's the weekend or it's the evening or it's a bank holiday or you're on vacation, like it's a full switch off. Whereas here, I find it people like still keep a finger on the trigger when it comes to their emails and their work, and I find it very difficult to switch off from work here sometimes, because maybe it's my job. I work in construction as a project manager, and it's always high pressure and stress and stuff like that. But I feel like in Europe, people make a point of time off. Statutory holidays out here is terrible. It's 2 weeks. Most companies won't even give you time off in the whole first year of employment, which I don't understand. You can't really talk about having mental health crisis in countries and then look at the rules where you're making your employees work for a whole year without time off. It's really a strange one. Now I'm fortunate, the job I'm in, I managed to negotiate better terms with my employer, and I think anyone that comes out here, do that at the beginning of your job, because it will be hard to change once you're locked into your employment. 2 weeks is just not enough. A lot of people end up having to take unpaid time off, which sucks because it really knocks your finances. Everything's expensive here in Canada, so you have to really keep an eye on everything. So yeah, the work culture, it seems to be quite a lot here, and I don't know if I'm really enjoying that part of it. Maybe things will get better as we're here for a little longer and we start to understand the culture more. And fortunate is if you're thinking of coming to Canada, come when you're younger, because as you get older, the system's against you in a weird way. That you start losing points because of your age. When I came out on the IEC 2-year visa, which is what we're on now, I had to pay a RO, which is a recognised organisation, because I had gone past the age of 30. So I had to pay an extra, a couple of grand there, and now I'm doing the PR thing, and again, because of my age, I've lost probably 20 points or something like that, and you find yourself having to pay your way to find a way through, to get to another step, and some of that stuff's frustrating. So you really end up having to pay the price to really get somewhere, and sometimes with your future and the gamble that you take now. Hopefully, people will say, it seems like a lot now, but in 3 or 4 years' time, you'll see that all of it would have been paid off, and it was probably one of the best decisions that you've ever made. So that's kind of what we're hoping for. But we can both feel it, in our gut, me and my wife, that there's something to be unlocked in this country for our future, and I feel like that's what we're working towards and getting towards, and that really is the driving factor. That's really the thing that keeps us going, is that we can sense or feel like there's a great future to be had here, and we feel like that's what really keeps us going and keeps us motivated to get through the paperwork stage and all this stuff and this visa stuff. And the grass so far has almost been greener on this side, and that's not always the case. It's not always for everybody. People give up after 6 months or 8 months and they leave, but we've persevered through those stages, and I do feel like eventually, once all of this stuff is over, when we have our PR cards and all that sort of stuff, that we will be prospering much better than we would have been in England, in my home city. I truly believe sometimes you do have to change your surrounding to change your results, and that's something that I firmly believe in. I could still be in England, I could still be in my city, I could still have a great life there, but I feel like our prospects better here, and I've changed the surrounding and the environment, and with that, you know, hopefully you feel like the rewards will come. And it's a journey, guys, and we're on this journey together, and if the rewards come, and I hope they do, one day we'll witness them all together, and we'll talk about them all together, and the growth and everything. You know, we spent 6 weeks in an Airbnb when we came. We struggled to find somewhere to rent, you know, and it's just the steps that everyone goes through. The next step would be, do we buy a house? Where do we buy a house? How much is it going to cost in Toronto or the GTA, all this sort of stuff. So we're just going through the phases, and you know, this is hopefully like a video diary that I can look back in years and, you know, look at the journey and you know, something that we can share together. So anyway, guys, look, it's been going on for a while, so I just wanted to come out here and do a catch up on how everything's going, and I'm going to try and keep making some videos where I can show you the process of what's going on with our paperwork and all that sort of stuff. We won't be going to England again for a while now, because as everyone's told us, once your paperwork's in process, that you shouldn't really leave the country until everything's nailed down. So you know, we'll try and do some local trips. I want to still see more of Canada, to be honest. I want to still see more of USA. We haven't even, you know, knocked on the door of South America yet, so these are all things that we really want to do, but we're just being tentative, you know, based on our situation and making the best moves. So hopefully I can, you know, document some of that, share some more videos and more trips that we do in our journey and everything. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll make another video soon, and you know, we'll see where we are on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.